Okay, so I want to go through text a bit more in depth. We've gone through dimensions and how to set up dimension styles and some of the dimension commands and the dimension toolbar, which is a great way to get started with annotation. But I really want to go through text and single line text and multi-line text because it's the other half really of annotation. To me, like the dimensions and text are the two like pillars of annotation in a drawing. So I went through text basically in the beginner series. There's not much to say about single line text, but I'm going to do a quick refresher anyways and just get it out of the way. There's a couple ways to do single line text. I left the ribbon up. Normally I have toolbars, and you've probably seen that in some other videos, but I brought the ribbon back for this. I'm going to do this both ways. So if you want to access single line text in the ribbon, go to your Annotate tab, select where it says multi-line text, grab the drop down, and select single line, and it pulls up the text command. That is the actual command for single line text. It's asking you to pick a start point or giving the option for justify or style. Style will allow you to pick which text style you want out of the ones you've created, and I'll get to text styles maybe later in the video. Or choose the justification before you get started. I'm just going to click, which gives me a left justification. That's the default. And then it asks me for a text height, which I'm going to leave at 4 inches, which is what I set previously. And I'm going to put line 1 and hit enter, line 2, enter, and line 3, enter. Oops, 3, enter. And what that does is gives me 3 separate lines of text as opposed to multi-line, which these would all be grouped together as you saw last time. There were some other options, or there are options available in the properties menu that are not available when you're creating the single line text to start with. So you have the contents, which is what's actually inside of your text box or text window. The style, which we had an option to change in the beginning, whether it's annotative or not, that was not an option. Justification was an option when we were creating the text, and you can change all this after the fact. So if you want to change it to like center justification, you can do that afterwards. The height, if you want to change the height. The rotation was also an option if you want to change that to something other than 0. The width factor and obliquing were not available to us during creation. The width factor changes how smushed it is. We'll leave that back at 1, but you can change that. Obliquing is basically italicized. You can choose the angle of obliquing. So the heavier the angle, the more it italicizes. We're going to leave text alignment alone. This is like when you're aligning text with stuff. And then you have your miscellaneous upside down or backwards. You probably will never need to use these, but they're there if you need them. These are also not available when you're creating the single line text. Okay, now that's out of the way. I'm going to erase those, and we're going to get to single line text. Well, real quick we're going to get to multi-line text, but before I do that, you can type in text, but not T. T brings up M text. If you want the shorthand command for text, it's DT. That brings up your same things like dynamic text, I guess, or whatever, just dtext. So it's either typing in text, DT is shorthand, or clicking the single line option here. When we click the drop down here, we go back to multi-line text. This is mtext. Mtext is the command. T is the shorthand command. You click and pick your text window size, like you would in something like Photoshop or some kind of text box in Word or something like that. Okay. You have all of your text options up here that you do not have when you're using single line text, because you get the full editor. When you are not using the ribbon and you're using toolbars instead, whenever the ribbon is closed, basically, you get a separate window or separate toolbar right above your text entry box that has all these same options, just laid out differently. I'm not going to do annotative. I'm going to leave this as standard, but you do have that option here. You can change the size beforehand. You can add a background mask, which I'm not going to do now because I don't have any objects behind it, so you wouldn't be able to see it. Well, unless I set a color for the mask, but I'm not going to do that. I'll do it in a second after I finish the mtext. You can match the formatting to something else. You can apply your own formatting like you would in Word: bold, italicize, underline, overline. You've got your font you can choose. You can pick a style, but you can still choose. by the way, these are the only two styles I have available. That's why I said I'm not going to go annotative. I haven't created additional text styles. So the default text style is standard. And I will show how to make text styles later. But these are the only two text styles I have available. But you can choose a style and still change the font like from the default that's in the standard. So the standard text style has a default font of Arial, but if I wanted to go to something else, to whatever, I could do that and put that font instead. You can change your layer. You can change the color. I think whatever layer I'm on right now has a red color, but you can choose to have a different color for here. You also have your obliquing, your width factor, and your space between characters. Those options are down here. You have your justification. You also have like quick justification, left, center. This is like paragraphs justification. You have bullets and numbering. You can choose whether you want to use numbered bullets, lettered bullets, or regular bullets. You can choose whether you want to start brand new or continue. Like if you have a break between bullets, you can continue it or start brand new. You can also allow bullets and numbering from the get-go. And this is an option where if you have this selected, as soon as it recognizes you want to do like a bullet, like if you type in like 1 period, it'll start doing the bullet right away. So if you don't want that to be that aggressive, then just don't even have that selected. You can choose columns. I don't mess with columns. Dynamic columns are even more foreign to me, but you can make static columns if you need to break things up. But honestly, I'd rather just have 2 different text columns. They're just too finicky for me to work with. So I always choose no columns. I just think it's a bit easier. Not even dynamic. You can do dynamic, and you'll notice because this little grip on the end is like a diamond. And if you choose no columns, it becomes like 2 arrows. So I usually go with no columns. It's a bit easier for me to work with. You can choose symbols to put. These all have codes, but you can choose them from here. So something like plus minus. Well, you have the default ones. These are usable. They're all usable everywhere. So you have things like plus minus. It puts in a plus minus diameter. So you notice something. They all have codes, right? You can type in %C, and you'll see that as soon as I do that %C, it automatically changes to whatever that code is, or sorry, whatever that symbol is. You have things like centerline, which this one displays a little quirky, but I think Romanesque displays a bit better there. So, and that one, if you look at the centerline, it's U plus 2104. So you type that in / U plus 2104, and it changes itself automatically as soon as you put the code in, or you can just click it from here and just grab it. You can grab some of these other symbols if you need to. They're all there for quick reference. You can enter fields. I'm not going to get into fields right now. This is definitely more of an advanced topic because there's a lot of different types of fields you can enter, but this is how you get to fields. Also, Control F will insert a field. You may come across, if you're working somewhere and you have not learned about fields and things of that nature, you'll see them in like title blocks a lot. Some companies will put them in their title blocks as attributes that you can double click and whatever. One of the things you can do, since fields are a lot of times dynamic, they pull information from other areas of AutoCAD. You can have like a field that reads the drawing name and puts it in your text box. So like in a title block, your drawing number will always be linked to whatever your file name is. Super handy for that kind of stuff. So you can do your spell check if you need to. I'm not even gonna get into dictionaries. Find and replace. If you need to, you can find and replace. This is especially handy for like large volumes of text and you have to replace, I don't know, something from 4 inches to 3 inches. You can just say replace this with that. And you've got your ruler turned on and off. Mine kind of has a little graphical error where it doesn't want to display when I do things. So, okay. So this is how you can get through all these options, right? If you don't have the ribbon turned on, I'm going to turn back on my other workspace. Then what happens is you get this window instead. And this has everything that other window had, just in a different format. I kind of like it a little bit better. It looks more like a traditional, like Word, like Microsoft Word editing type window. Turn off your columns here, do your justification. You can do paragraph editing. I don't even really get into this. I wouldn't even get into this in Word. I'm just not a big fan of that. I don't need to get into that kind of editing for paragraphs in AutoCAD, but you might. And if you do, hit that F1, man. It's not my speed. You can adjust fraction stacking this way. I didn't see that in the last one on the ribbon. This one's a bit more apparent. So like if I put like 1/4 and it stacks, you either get the option for stacking here, like diagonal, horizontal, or unstacking, or changing your stack properties, or you can access it here. As soon as I select that fraction stack, you can choose to unstack it or restack it. So, and then change your whatever. Speaking of stack fractions or whatever, you can get to that from here, stack properties, and change the text in the stack, change the style, change the position, and then change its size relative to the text. If this was set at 100%, then your fraction text would be the same size as your regular text. You can also turn on auto stacking. That's basically when you type in when you type in a fraction and you hit space, it will automatically stack the fraction. And on top of that, you can tell it, whether you want it to be automatically diagonal or horizontal, and if you want to remove the leading blank. So let's see an example of that in action. So let's say I type in, I think my I didn't see whether it was turned on or not. So there's 1 1/4, right? Now let's say I want this to be diagonal and I want to remove the space between that. Well, I can turn on my stack, my stack options. So I've right-clicked inside the drawing area, which gives me this window. Some of this stuff is available up here, some of it's not. So I'm going to go to, where was it? Where's the stacking? Well, I think I have to have, what do you call it? A fraction to begin with. Yeah. Because you can always see stack properties. It becomes available to you, or you can just click the little dynamic thingy here. All right, so we're going to go to our auto stack, and we're going to change diagonal fraction and remove that leading blank. Hit OK. All right, so now if I say 1 1/4, oops, there we go. Removes the leading blank, and we got that diagonal fraction. So you can edit your fraction stacks that way, which is really handy if you happen to be using stack fractions, which I do, but some companies don't. Just putting it out there. You got access to your symbols again. All your symbols are here. And some other formatting options. Your fields are insertable here, also with Control F still. Your bullets are with this icon here. Your obliquing, your space between characters, and your width factor. And then I right-clicked for this menu, but you can also access the same menu from here by just clicking that. When you're finished, just hit OK. You can alternatively just click outside of it, outside the window. You don't actually have to hit OK every time. Just click outside. Even when you're editing and I'm like, edit, just click outside. You don't have to go, hit OK if you don't feel like it. Just click somewhere outside. It's much faster that way. So that's the gist of editing through the multi-line editor. Just like single line text, you can edit a lot of that stuff over here in your properties window. A lot of the same stuff we were just looking through. Now, the one thing I said I was going to do last time is make a background mask. So let's say I've got a rectangle. Let's say I want to hatch this. Let's preview that. That's a little too small. Let's change that to... By the way, if this window looks foreign to you, it's because when I went over hatches, and I haven't gone over hatches fully, but when I went over hatches in the beginner series, I had it in the ribbon. And so all these options were in the ribbon and not in this hatch window. This is what comes up if you have the ribbon closed. So I'm going to change this over to 10. That works. So hit OK. All right. So I'm going to edit this text. I'm going to center it, turn the columns off. And, okay, one thing about this is you'll notice, and I'm going to show you on the background when I change the background mask. This window, this whole thing gets masked out. So keep that in mind. What you can do is, this is the width. You can change this width of the text editor down all the way and just do this. But it looks funky until you edit and come back. I'm not a huge fan of... So here's... I know this is going to sound crazy, but here's my... my method for doing this. I turn my dynamic columns off first, and then I come back and do this and put this at 0. So you don't have that weird thing. So it looks a little better. I'm also going to change the, did I change the justification on this to center? I did not. I am now. Oh, I guess it still did that weird thing. It just must be my AutoCAD when I went to center justification. I'm going to change justify to middle center. Now I got that grip in the center. Oh yeah. Which, by the way, is it going to let me know? There are some options you can do with mText, I thought, from the grip, but I'm tripping. All right. I'm going to move this down here. Turn my ortho off. Put this right here, roughly in the center. I need to set my draw order for this. So I haven't gone over draw order yet, but if you want to follow along, if you are following along with this, what you can do is, I'm trying to see if I can find it from the menu here, because I use it from the toolbar. Draw. Yeah, see, I don't see it. Format. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm not going to sit here all day. Draw order. Okay. So it's in tools, and then draw order, and then you can see bring to front. Alternatively, if you're using toolbars at all, I have the AutoCAD draw order toolbar turned on, and I have it right here, bring to front. You're going to want to put this in front for the mask to work. So I'm going to go here, select my text, go to my properties, and I'm going to say background mask. Use a background mask. The border offset factor is how much further than the text box do you want to offset. So I'm going to say 1.2, and I'm going to say you can choose a color. I'm going to say use the background drawing color. If I were to use like yellow, you would see this background come up as yellow. But if I set that as a background color, it's going to assume whatever the background is, which is black. So now I have this pretty little block out. I have not affected the hatch in any way. You can see that when I select it, it still comes up as a full hatch. All I've done is I put this text on top. If I send this text to back, you'll see that it goes behind and the text mask no longer works. It has to be in front for that text mask to work. Also, as far as this window goes, remember what I was telling you earlier that this window, this editor controls where that mask is going to be. So if you want the mask to be bigger, you can just, you can do a couple things really. You can adjust the size of this window. You have a defined width. You also have a defined height. So you can say like, I don't know, 0.5. No, you're not going to. How big is my text? Oh, my text is 4 inches. I'm tripping. 5 inches or 6 inches. It's still not working because it doesn't want to agree with me today, but that's okay. I was pretty dang sure that I've done this before, and you know what? I probably did it a different way. My defined height is not working with me because why? It is working with me. Why? What? I don't know. It looks like if I set the height to like maybe 6 inches, I need to edit it, and then it will like update. Or probably regen will work on as well. Let's see, 1 foot, 12 inches, regen. No, I guess it's one of those AutoCAD things where you actually have to, if you're gonna set a defined width, you have to like edit the text, and then it brings the mask up, and now it will redo it. So, score, it wasn't just me. I knew it. I knew I've done this. It just. Yeah, I really don't do this, honestly. As far as defined height, I'll just say 0 and edit the text. And if I really want to edit this around here, what I'll do is I'll just change the background mask to something bigger, like maybe, I don't know, 1.7. It's a little easier that way and more uniform. So, all right, there's your background mask. All right, I'm taking up enough of your time. This is getting to be a long video. I didn't want it to be this long, but I kind of got off on a tangent, so my fault. All right, that's it. So you got your all your stuff here. Oh, you can do a text frame if you want. That's kind of nice. Explore. You can explore. If you have a mask, you can put a text frame around it. Even if you don't have a mask, the frame will still be there. I can turn the mask off. Turn the mask off. Frame's still there. It's just that when I move it through here, it overlaps. So there's that. Get used to MText and working with it. Try bullets and numbering. You're going to make lists of things. Try formatting. Add some tabs or whatever. When you're creating text, you can add like these little paragraph markers for tabs and things of that nature. So play around with it a bit and try to get used to it, because it's going to come in handy from time to time, especially when you're doing things like editing in the dimension. Editing dimensions and leaders, they also use the Multiline text editor, so you might as well get familiar with it. So that's it.